The smell of metal and oil filled the narrow maintenance shaft. Jia wiped sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a dark smudge across her skin. Her small fingers worked quickly, reconnecting wires that most people couldn't tell apart. Almost done, she whispered to herself. At 19 years old, Jia was the youngest maintenance technician in New Seoul Colony. The settlement sat on the edge of human space, far from Earth and its comforts. Here, everything was recycled, repaired, and used until it fell apart. Nothing went to waste. The broken cooling unit sputtered, then hummed to life. Jia smiled. She didn't need to check the manual or run diagnostics. She just knew when machines were fixed. It was like they spoke to her in a language only she understood. Jia, are you still in there? Han's voice echoed through the shaft. Coming out now, she called back, gathering her tools. Han stood waiting, arms crossed, but with a hint of a smile on his face. As her supervisor, he pretended to be strict, but everyone knew he had a soft spot for Jia. That's the third unit you fixed today. How do you do it? Jia shrugged. I just listened to them. Han laughed. Well, whatever you're doing, keep it up. The colony needs people like you. Jia nodded and headed toward the next job. As she walked through the busy corridors of New Seoul, she looked up through the rare clear sections of ceiling. Stars shone against the black sky. Sometimes ships would pass overhead, heading to worlds she could only imagine. Someday, she whispered. The door to her family's quarters slid open with a creak. The small apartment was neat but cramped. Her grandmother Suk sat by the window, hands busy with mending. I'm home, Jia announced. Suk looked up with warm eyes. Just in time. Dinner is almost ready. Their meal was simple: rice, vegetables from the colony farm, and a small portion of synthetic protein. Luxuries were rare on the colony. I heard the council meeting was busy today, Suk said as they ate. News from Earth about the Vreen. Jia perked up. The Vreen Collective was the only alien civilization humans had regular contact with. Tall, with iridescent exoskeletons, they controlled territories that bordered human space. What happened? Nothing good. Trade talks have stopped. Some say the Vreen are building more warships. Jia frowned. But why? We've had peace for 15 years. Peace is always fragile, child. Suk's voice was soft but serious. Your parents understood that. Jia looked at the small memorial shelf where her parents' pictures stood. They had died when she was 7, during a structural failure in the mining tunnels. Many colony children had similar stories. Do you think there will be trouble? Jia asked. I hope not, but it's good to be prepared. After dinner, Jia sat at her small desk. From a hidden compartment, she pulled out pieces of scrap technology she had collected. While other young people spent their free time in the colony's recreation center, Jia built things: small robots, communication devices, and tools that no one had names for. Her latest project lay in pieces before her, a signal amplifier that could reach farther than standard colony equipment. She wasn't supposed to have these parts, but Han looked the other way when she salvaged from the scrap piles. As she worked, an alert sounded throughout the colony. The overhead lights flickered to emergency mode. All residents, attention. This is Director Jin. We have received word that a Vreen vessel has changed course and is headed toward our sector. This is not a drill. Prepare for possible emergency protocols. Jia's hands froze over her project. Outside, she could hear people beginning to move quickly through the corridors. Suk appeared at her bedroom doorway. Put that away, Jia. We need to prepare. Jia nodded and carefully stored her project. As she did, she felt something unusual, a faint vibration running through the metal floor, different from the normal colony hum. The machines were trying to tell her something. Tomorrow would not be an ordinary day. Morning came with blaring alarms. Jia jumped from her bed, heart racing. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors as she and Suk joined the stream of people moving toward the colony's underground bunkers. What's happening? Jia asked a security officer running past. Vreen's ship entered our orbit. All communications are down. Move to the bunkers now. Suk grabbed Jia's hand. Come, child. Hurry. As they moved with the crowd, Jia noticed something strange on the status screens along the walls. The colony's defense systems were offline. Not damaged, offline. Like they had been shut down from within. Grandmother, I need to check something, Jia said, pulling away. Jia. No, it's not safe. Suk called after her. But Jia was already pushing against the flow of people, moving toward the maintenance hub. If the defense systems were down, someone needed to fix them. The corridors emptied quickly as colonists reached the bunkers. Soon Jia was alone, running through the silent hallways. Through the ceiling windows, she saw it, the Vreen ship. It was smaller than she expected, a scout vessel rather than a warship, its metallic hull gleaming like a giant insect in the light of the system's sun. Strangely, it wasn't positioning itself for attack. It was moving erratically, as if damaged. Jia reached the maintenance hub and used her access code to enter. The room was empty, screens showing red warnings across all systems. What is going on? She whispered, sliding into the main control seat. Her fingers flew across the controls, checking system after system. Nothing was physically broken. The colony's defenses, communications, and even basic operating systems had all been shut down by some kind of signal interference. Jia pulled up the signal analyzers. A pattern she had never seen before pulsed across the screen. It wasn't Vreen. It wasn't human either. There was a third player in this game. Jia patched into the emergency communication system, trying to reach Director Jin in the command bunker. Static filled the channel, but she kept trying. Hello, this is Jia from maintenance. Can anyone hear me? More static. Then a broken voice. Unauthorized. Return to bunker immediately. Listen to me. The defense systems are being jammed by an external signal. It's not coming from the Vreen ship. A loud bang shook the colony, making Jia grab the console for support. Through the windows, she saw the Vreen ship firing, not at the colony, but at something in orbit beyond her view. The colony rocked again. Warning lights changed from red to flashing purple, a color Jia had never seen in the emergency system before. Suddenly, a new signal appeared on her screen. It was coming from deep within the colony, beneath the mining levels, a signal answering whatever was interfering with their systems. Jia stared in disbelief. The source was directly below them, hidden under the colony for who knows how long. A beacon of some kind, now active. The door to the maintenance hub slid open. Jia turned, expecting security officers, but instead saw her friend Da in his junior security uniform, breathing hard. Jia, what are you doing? Everyone's looking for you. Da, something weird is happening. The colony systems aren't broken. They're being jammed. And look, she pointed to the screen showing the signal source. Something under the colony is responding. Da moved closer, eyes widening. That's below the deepest mining level. There shouldn't be anything down there. Another explosion rocked the station. Through the windows, they saw 3 more ships appear. Sleek, dark vessels unlike any human or Vreen design. We need to tell Director Jin, Da said, reaching for his communicator. No, Jia replied, standing up with sudden certainty. We need to go down there. Whatever that thing is, it's the key to all of this. She gathered emergency tools and a portable scanner. Are you crazy? We can't just. The Vreen aren't attacking us, Da. They're protecting themselves, and maybe us too, from whatever those ships are. She pointed to the newcomers. And our only chance to understand why is waiting below our feet. Da hesitated, then nodded. I know a maintenance shaft that leads to the lower levels, but if we get caught, we won't, Jia said, already moving toward the door. Come on. Outside, the strange ships moved closer, their dark shapes blocking the stars. Jia and Da moved quickly through the maintenance tunnels. Most of the colony was built above ground, But mining operations had created a network of tunnels below. Few people went down this deep. "We shouldn't be here," Day said, his hand resting on his security stunner. "These lower levels were sealed off last year after that cave-in." Jia checked her scanner. "The signal is getting stronger." 2 more levels down. The colony shook again. Dust fell from the tunnel ceiling. "Whatever those ships up there are doing, they're getting more aggressive," Daz said. They reached a heavy door marked with warning signs. Jia connected her toolkit to the control panel and bypassed the security lock. The door slid open with a groan. Beyond lay a tunnel that looked different from the ones above. The walls were smoother, almost polished. "This doesn't look like our mining work," Dai whispered. Jia ran her hand along the wall. "It's not. Someone, or something, made these tunnels long before we arrived." They followed the tunnel as it sloped downward. Jia's scanner beeped faster as the signal grew stronger. The air felt different here, heavier, with a faint smell like ozone after a lightning storm. "Look," Dad pointed ahead. The tunnel opened into a large chamber. Unlike the practical, functional spaces of the colony, this room was perfectly circular. In its center stood a pillar of dark metal covered in symbols neither of them recognized. "What is it?" Dai asked. Jia approached slowly. "I think it's a beacon." The pillar pulsed with a soft purple light, the same color as the emergency warnings above. Jia's scanner showed energy readings off the charts. "It's been here all along," she said, "buried under our colony. Our mining operations must have activated it somehow." Day stayed by the entrance. "We need to report this to Director Jin." "Wait," Jia said, studying the symbols. "I want to understand what—" Her words were cut off by a loud crash from above. The whole chamber shook. A section of ceiling collapsed, revealing a new tunnel. 3 figures dropped through the opening. Tall, with iridescent exoskeletons and multiple limbs, Vreen soldiers. Day raised his stunner. "Don't move." The Vreen soldiers raised their weapons in response. For a moment, everyone was frozen. Then Jia stepped between them. "Stop. We're not enemies here." The lead Vreen tilted its head, compound eyes reflecting the purple light. It made a series of clicking sounds. "They can't understand you," Daz said, his weapon still raised. "Maybe not my words," Jia replied. She slowly set down her scanner and tools. Then she pointed to the pillar, then up toward the ceiling, and finally made a sweeping gesture toward the Vreen. The lead Vreen watched her movements. Then it lowered its weapon slightly and made a gesture of its own, pointing to the pillar, then to the ceiling, and making a crushing motion with its hands. "I think they know what this is," Jia said, "and they're afraid of it." She picked up her scanner and showed the Vreen the signal pattern. The alien studied it, then made a series of urgent clicks to its companions. "What's happening?" Day asked. "I think." Jia studied the pillar again. "I think this beacon isn't just sending a signal. It's calling something. And whatever it's calling, the Vreen are here to stop it." The lead Vreen approached the pillar and attached a device to its base. More clicking sounds followed as it worked. "They're trying to shut it down," Jia realized. But the pillar's light only grew brighter. The Vreen stepped back, making distressed sounds. Jia's scanner suddenly displayed a new alert, a massive energy surge from above. "Something's entered the atmosphere," she said, looking at the readings. "Something big." The lead Vreen turned to Jia and made a series of gestures, pointing to the pillar, then to her, then upward, and finally a sweeping motion across its throat. "I think it's saying that whatever is coming will kill us all," Day translated. The colony's emergency system suddenly blared back to life, announcements echoing even down here. "Attention all colonists. Unknown vessels have entered orbit. All personnel remain in secure bunkers. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." The lead Vreen approached Jia and extended one limb, holding out a small device with a display showing symbols similar to those on the pillar. "I think it wants our help," Jia said quietly. She reached out and took the device. As her fingers touched it, the symbols seemed to shift, rearranging themselves. Both Jia and the Vreen stared in surprise. "How did you do that?" Dai asked. Jia stared at the device. "I don't know." The chamber shook again. Dust and small rocks fell from the ceiling. The Vreen soldiers chittered nervously to each other. "We need to get out of here," Dad said, looking up at the unstable ceiling. Jia studied the device the Vreen had given her. The symbols continued to shift and change under her touch. Somehow, she felt she was beginning to understand them. "This is a key," she said slowly. "The beacon is locked in activation mode, but this can override it." The lead Vreen made a series of clicks and pointed deeper into the tunnel system. "I think it wants us to go further down," Jia said. Day shook his head. "Are you crazy? We need to go back up and report what we found." "To who?" "The colony is in lockdown, and we don't have time." Jia pointed to her scanner. "Whatever those ships are, they're getting closer. The Vreen know what's happening, and they came here to stop it." The lead Vreen stepped forward. It touched its chest with one limb. "Kotu," it said in a raspy, mechanical voice. Jia and Dai stared in surprise. "Did it just speak?" Dai asked. "I think it told us its name," Jia replied. She touched her own chest. "Jia. Jia," the Vreen repeated, its voice device struggling with the sound. Day sighed and pointed to himself. "Da." The Vreen, Kodo, nodded and pointed down the tunnel again, making urgent gestures. "I think we should trust it," Jia said. "This is against every colony protocol," Da muttered, but he followed as Jia and the Vreen moved deeper into the tunnel system. They hadn't gone far when a new voice echoed from behind them. "Stop right there." They turned to see Director Jin with 4 security officers, all pointing weapons at them and the Vreen. "Director Jin," Dai stepped forward. "We can explain." "Step away from those aliens, both of you," Jin ordered. "They've attacked our colony." "No, they haven't," Jia said firmly. "They're trying to help us. There's something much worse coming." Jin's eyes narrowed. "Something worse?" "There's an ancient beacon down here," Jia explained quickly. "It was activated by our mining. It's calling something the Vreen are afraid of." Kodo stepped forward, causing the security officers to raise their weapons higher. "Don't shoot." Jia moved between them. The colony shook violently. From above came the sound of distant explosions. "Director, those new ships are attacking both us and the Vreen," Dai added. "We need to work together." Jin hesitated, looking between the humans and the aliens. "My priority is this colony's safety." "Then help us," Jia said, holding up the device Kodo had given her. "This might be our only chance to stop whatever's happening." Another explosion, closer this time. Emergency lights flickered. "We have less than an hour before those ships break through our atmosphere," one of the security officers reported, checking his comm device. Jin stared at the Vreen for a long moment, then at Jia. "You really believe these creatures are here to help?" "I do," Jia said. "They understand what's happening better than we do. And they gave me this." She held up the device. Jin studied Jia's face. "Your grandmother said you've always had a gift with machines. Never wrong about a system failure. This is bigger than fixing cooling units." "Director," Jia said. "But yes, I know I'm right." Jin finally nodded. "2 of my officers will go with you. The rest of us will return to coordinate defense." Kodo made a series of clicks that sounded almost like relief. "Thank you," Jia said. "Don't thank me yet," Jin replied grimly. "If you're wrong, we might all be dead very soon." As Jin and 2 officers left, Jia turned to the tunnel ahead. The device in her hand pulsed in sync with the distant beacon. "Let's go," she said to Da, Kodo, and the remaining officers. They moved deeper into the tunnel system, following a path that seemed to have been waiting for thousands of years. For Jia, it felt strangely like coming home, though she couldn't understand why. Above them, the unknown ships drew closer and time was running out. The tunnels grew narrower as they descended. Jia led the way, following the pulsing light of the device. Behind her came Dai, Kodo, the two other Vreen soldiers, and the human security officers. How much farther? Dai asked, ducking under a low section of tunnel. I'm not sure, Jia answered honestly, but the signal is getting stronger. The walls here were different, smoother, with faint lines that almost looked like writing. When Jia's hand brushed against them, they glowed briefly. Did you see that? She asked. Kodo made a clicking sound and touched the wall himself. Nothing happened. It only responds to you, Dai said, his voice a mix of awe and concern. They continued downward. The air grew warmer, and the light from their emergency lamps reflected off surfaces that seemed almost metallic. This isn't natural, one of the security officers said. These tunnels were made by something with advanced technology. Kodo touched his translation device and spoke in his raspy, mechanical voice. Old ones. Very old. What does he mean by old ones? The officer asked. Jia shook her head. I don't know. The loud rumble shook the tunnel. Dirt and small rocks fell from above. Those ships must be getting closer, Dai said, looking up nervously. The device in Jia's hand suddenly flashed brightly. The tunnel ahead opened into another chamber, much larger than the one they had found earlier. Wow, Jia whispered as they entered. The room was massive and perfectly round. In its center stood a column of light that reached from floor to ceiling. Around it were curved panels covered in the same symbols as on the device she held. What is this place? Dai asked, his voice echoing. Kodo and the other Vreen made sounds of what seemed like reverence. He spoke through his translator again. Control. Heart. Jia approached the column of light. As she got closer, images appeared within it. Stars, planets, and what looked like ships moving between them. I think it's some kind of map, she said. She held up the device, which now pulsed in perfect sync with the column. Symbols on the panels began to glow. Be careful, Dai warned. Jia felt drawn to the panels. She reached out and touched one. Information flooded her mind, not as words, but as images and feelings. She gasped and pulled her hand back. What happened? Dai moved to her side. I saw. I don't know how to explain it. History. A very old history. Jia looked at Kodo. Your people have met them before, haven't you? The ones coming now. Kodo nodded, his compound eyes reflecting the column's light. Long ago, death came. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Part of the ceiling collapsed, blocking the tunnel they had come through. We're trapped, one of the officers shouted. As dust filled the air, a new opening appeared in the wall. Dark shapes emerged, machines unlike anything Jia had seen before. They looked like metal spiders, each the size of a small dog. Look out, Dai shouted, raising his weapon. The machines moved quickly, surrounding them. Kodo and the Vreen soldiers formed a protective circle, weapons ready. Don't fire, Jia called out. They might be part of the defense system. But the machines attacked. Beams of energy shot from their centers. One of the Vreen soldiers fell, its exoskeleton smoking. Chaos erupted as everyone fired at the machines. Jia ran toward the control panels, knowing they were the key to stopping this. A machine leaped at her. Dai fired, but missed. Just before it reached her, Kodo jumped between them. The machine's energy beam hit him in the chest. He fell to the ground, damaged but still alive. Jia reached the panels and pressed her hands against them. The symbols glowed brighter under her touch. She closed her eyes, trying to understand the flood of information. Jia, Dai called out. Whatever you're doing, hurry. She found what she needed, a pattern of symbols that seemed to represent control. She pressed them in sequence. The machines froze in place, then retreated back into the wall. Jia ran to Kodo. Are you okay? The Vreen leader's voice came weakly through his translator. You, special. You must continue. I don't understand what's happening, Jia said. Kodo pointed to the column of light. Your answer. There. The column pulsed, and an image formed within it. A ship, dark and massive, approaching the colony. And behind it, more ships. Time was running out. Jia turned back to the control panels. The symbols pulsed with light, almost as if they were alive. She placed both hands on the largest panel, and this time, instead of pulling away from the rush of information, she let it flow. Images filled her mind. A race of tall, graceful beings with skin that shimmered like stars. They traveled between worlds, building great cities and sharing knowledge with younger species. The Nyx, she whispered, the name coming to her without knowing how. What did you say? Dai asked, helping Kodo sit up against a wall. The Nyx, that's what they called themselves. They were. Jia struggled to find simple words for the concepts flooding her mind. They were guardians. They protected younger races, like humans, and Vreen, a very long time ago. Kodo's translator crackled. Old stories. True. Ancient protectors. Jia saw more in the stream of memories. A great war. The Nyx fighting among themselves. Some wanted to rule the younger races instead of protecting them. There was a split, she continued. Some Nyx turned against the others. There was a terrible war. The images showed devastating weapons, entire worlds destroyed. Finally, the loyal Nyx made a difficult choice. The good Nyx couldn't win the war, so they hid themselves away in special sleep chambers, deep underground on many worlds. They left beacons that would wake them if the enemy ever returned. Day looked at the blocked tunnel entrance, then back at Jia. And one of those beacons is here, under our colony. Our mining woke it up. Yes, Jia nodded. But something's wrong. The beacon isn't just calling the good Nyx. It's calling everyone, including the enemy. A new image formed in her mind. Herself, but strange, with parts of her DNA highlighted in a pattern that matched symbols on the wall. Jia gasped and stepped back from the panel. What's wrong? Dai asked. I'm part Nyx, she said, her voice shaking. Not much, maybe 1% of my DNA. That's why I can use their technology. That's why the walls glow when I touch them. The security officers exchanged worried glances. That's impossible, one said. You're human. Almost entirely, Jia agreed. But somewhere in my family's past, the Nyx left their mark. Many humans might carry small traces of their DNA. But in me, it's active. Kodo struggled to stand. Special, bloodline. Vreen legends. Speak of this. Another explosion shook the chamber, stronger than before. Dust poured from the ceiling. The ships are getting closer, Dai warned. Jia turned back to the panels. The beacon is calling both sides of the Nyx. The ones in the ships are the enemy. The ones who wanted to rule instead of protect. Can you shut it off? The security officer asked. Jia studied the panels. I think so. But she paused, seeing more information flowing through the column of light. There's something else. Sleeping chambers, right below us, with good Nyx still inside them. After thousands of years, Day asked in disbelief. Their technology was far advanced, Jia said. They're still alive, in stasis. If I can wake them, they could help us fight the enemy ships. Or they could be just as dangerous, the officer warned. Jia closed her eyes, feeling the connection to the system growing stronger. No, I can feel them. They're like me. A new image formed in the column, the approaching enemy ship landing on the colony. Destruction spreading, humans and Vreen alike falling before terrible weapons. We don't have much time, Jia said. I have to make a choice. Shut down the beacon and hope the enemy ships leave, or wake the sleeping Nyx and ask for their help. Kodo limped to her side. His translator spoke. Trust yourself. See with Heart. Jia looked at the injured Vreen, then at Dai and the others. So many lives depended on her decision. She placed her hands on the panels again. This time, instead of just receiving information, she sent a command. A door slid open in the floor, revealing a stairway leading even deeper. "I've made my choice," she said. "I'm going to wake them." They descended the stairs quickly. The walls here glowed with a soft blue light that brightened as Jia passed. "It's like the whole place knows you," Dai said, staying close behind her. At the bottom of the stairs, they entered a vast hall. Hundreds of crystal pods lined the walls, each containing what looked like a sleeping figure. "The Nyx," Jia whispered. She approached the nearest pod. Inside was a tall, slender being with pale, almost translucent skin. It looked peaceful, as if it were only napping. "How do we wake them?" the security officer asked. Before Jia could answer, a violent explosion shook the entire chamber. Dust and small rocks fell from the ceiling. "They've landed," Dai said, checking his comm device. "Director Jin reports enemy ships on the colony surface. They're attacking everyone, humans and Vreen." Kodo made urgent clicking sounds, his translator struggling to keep up. "No time. Wake sleepers. Need defense now." Jia knew he was right. Waking the sleeping Nyx would take too long. They needed to act now. A new door opened at the far end of the hall. Through it, she could see a room with a single large crystal in the center. "This way," she said, moving toward it. The crystal room was smaller but felt more important. The crystal itself was taller than Jia and pulsed with energy. "What is this?" Dai asked. "It's the main control system," Jia said, somehow knowing the answer. "It controls the beacon and the colony's defense network." She placed her hands on the crystal. Images flooded her mind again, but clearer this time, more focused. She saw the enemy ships landing on the colony surface. She saw their weapons destroying buildings. She saw people running in terror. "I can create a defense shield," she said. "I can use the beacon's power to protect the colony." Jia focused her thoughts, sending commands through the crystal. Above them, hidden systems that had lain dormant for thousands of years began to activate. On the colony surface, metal panels slid open. Energy turrets rose from the ground, surprising both attackers and defenders. Director Jin's voice came through on Dai's comm device. "What's happening?" "Defense systems are activating everywhere." "It's Jia," Dai replied. "She's found a way to help us." The turrets fired beams of energy at the enemy ships. For a moment, it seemed to work. 2 smaller ships were damaged, but the largest one remained untouched. Through the crystal, Jia could feel the enemy ship's power. It was too strong for the automated defenses. "It's not enough," she said, her voice strained. Kodo limped to her side. "More power needed." "Yes," Jia agreed. "But how?" The crystal showed her the answer, a complete connection, not just touching the system, but joining with it. "I see what I need to do," she said quietly. Dai noticed the change in her voice. "What are you talking about?" "I can fully connect with the system," Jia explained. "My Nyx DNA makes it possible. I can channel the full power of this place through myself." "That sounds dangerous," Dai said, grabbing her arm. "What will it do to you?" Jia looked at her friend. "I don't know." Another explosion rocked the chamber. Through the crystal, Jia saw more enemy troops landing, moving through the colony, harming people. "There's no other choice," she said. "People are dying up there." Kodo made a sound that needed no translation. "Respect." "There must be another way," Dai insisted. Jia shook her head. "There isn't enough time." She looked around at each of them. "If this works, the colony will be safe. If it doesn't." The crystal pulsed brighter, almost as if it was calling to her. "I need to do this," she said. "Please, let me." Dai finally nodded, releasing her arm. "Be careful." Jia turned back to the crystal and placed both hands firmly against its surface. This time, she didn't just touch it, she pushed her consciousness into it. The crystal's light enveloped her completely. Above, the battle raged on. But everything was about to change. Light filled the chamber as Jia connected with the crystal. Her body remained standing, hands pressed against the glowing surface, but her mind traveled far beyond. She could see the entire colony now, every corridor, every room, every person hiding or fighting. She could see the enemy ships. The Nyx who had chosen power over protection had returned. Their dark armor and cruel weapons moved through the colony, destroying everything in their path. Jia? De's voice seemed far away. Can you hear me? She could, but couldn't answer. All her focus was on the crystal and the energy flowing through her. Through the connection, Jia activated more of the ancient defense systems. Hidden weapons emerged from walls and ground. Energy shields formed around groups of colonists. The tide of battle slowly began to change. The enemy Nyx noticed the shift. The largest ship turned its main weapon toward the ground, aiming directly at the spot where Jia and the others stood deep below. They know we're here, one of the security officers said. They're targeting this location. Koto's translator crackled. Girl, strong, but need more power. Jia heard them. She knew they were right. What she was doing wasn't enough. The enemy was too powerful, their weapons too advanced. In her expanded consciousness, she found the answer. The sleeping Nyx surrounding them held power in their stasis, if she could borrow just a little from each one. But the risk was enormous. Taking their energy might harm them, and channeling that much power might destroy her own mind. She would lose herself. As she hesitated, the enemy weapon powered up. She could feel its terrible energy building. Jia, Dai shouted, shaking her shoulder. We need to get out of here. She couldn't leave. Not now. Not when she was the only one who could stop this. Suddenly, a new presence entered the chamber. Jia sensed it through her expanded awareness before the others saw her. Grandmother, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Suk stood in the doorway, her old eyes wide with wonder at the strange room. How did you get here? Dai asked in shock. I followed the emergency tunnels. Suk said calmly. When they said my granddaughter had gone below with aliens, I knew I had to find her. She approached Jia, seemingly unafraid of the crystal's glow or the alien technology. Grandmother, Jia managed to say, you need to leave. It's not safe. Suk shook her head. I'm exactly where I need to be. She looked at the crystal, then back at Jia. You've found your path, haven't you? I can save everyone, Jia said, but I might lose myself. Suk smiled gently. Some people live their whole lives and never find a purpose as worthy as the one you found today. She reached out and touched Jia's face. Your parents would be so proud. The enemy weapon reached full power. Time was running out. I'm afraid, Jia admitted. Of course you are, Suk said. Courage isn't about feeling no fear. It's about doing what's right despite being afraid. Jia felt tears on her cheeks. I love you, grandmother. And I love you, Suk replied. Now do what you must. Jia closed her eyes and fully opened herself to the crystal. She reached out to the sleeping Nyx, asking for their help. In their dreams, they answered, offering small pieces of their energy. Power unlike anything she had ever felt surged through her. The crystal blazed so brightly that everyone had to shield their eyes. Above, the enemy weapon fired. A beam of destructive energy shot toward the colony. But before it could hit, a shield of brilliant light formed over the entire settlement. The beam struck the shield and scattered harmlessly into space. Inside the crystal chamber, Jia's body began to glow with the same light. Jia, Dag cried out. But she couldn't answer anymore. Her consciousness expanded beyond the colony, beyond the planet. She could see stars, galaxies, the flow of time itself. And then, slowly, she began to fade away. She's disappearing, the security officer shouted. No, Suk said, tears in her eyes but a smile on her face. She's becoming something more. J's physical form dissolved into points of light that merged with the crystal. Her last conscious thought was of her grandmother's smile. Above, the enemy ships began to fall from the sky. 3 years passed since the day the enemy ships fell from the sky. New Seoul colony had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Where once humans lived alone, now Vreen walked the corridors too. The former enemies had become allies, united by a shared experience and a common debt. The colony had expanded, with new buildings rising above the surface and new tunnels carefully dug below. But the deepest chambers remained special, protected by both human and Vreen guards. Day, now wearing the uniform of a senior liaison officer, led a group of new arrivals through the main plaza. "This is the Memorial Garden," he explained, pointing to a beautiful space where plants from both Earth and the Vreen homeworld grew together. "It honors those who died during the attack." In the center stood a statue of a young woman, her hands reaching upward, as if touching something only she could see. "Who is she?" asked one of the newcomers. Day smiled. Her name was Ja. She was just a maintenance technician, like many of you, but when the moment came, she saved us all. He led the group toward a new building with both human and Vreen writing on its entrance. "This is the Joint Research Center. Here, scientists from both our peoples study the technology we found beneath the colony." Inside, humans and Vreen worked side by side, examining artifacts and technologies beyond anything either species had created on their own. "Have you made much progress?" another newcomer asked. "Some," Day replied. "But the most important thing we've learned isn't about technology at all. It's about cooperation. 3 years ago, we were on the edge of war. Now we're building something together." Commander Koto approached, his exoskeleton bearing the marks of old injuries. His translator was much improved, his voice almost natural now. "Are these the new technicians?" he asked. "Yes," Da nodded. "I was just telling them about Ja." Koto's compound eyes reflected the light. A remarkable human. I still remember her courage. After the tour ended, Dai checked the time. "Excuse me, I have somewhere I need to be." He made his way to the restricted elevator that led to the deepest level. The guards, one human, one Vreen, nodded as he passed. The crystal chamber had been preserved exactly as it was 3 years ago. But now, the central crystal glowed with a soft, constant light. Suk sat in a comfortable chair beside it, her hands working on some knitting. She looked up as Dai entered. "Right on time," she said with a smile. "I was just telling her about the new gardens." Day nodded. Many thought the old woman was simply talking to herself, but he knew better. "Has there been any change?" "The light was brighter this morning," Suk said, "and I felt something, like she was trying to speak." Day sat beside her. They had come here every day for 3 years, keeping watch over what remained of Ja. The scientists said her consciousness had merged with the ancient system. Her physical body was gone, but something of her remained in the network of crystals that ran beneath the colony. Director Jin approved the new excavation. Dad told Suk, "We think we found another chamber with more information about the Nyx." "Good." Suk nodded. She would want us to keep learning. The crystal pulsed slightly, as if in agreement. "Sometimes," Suk said quietly, "I think she can see beyond our world now. Her consciousness travels among the stars, learning secrets we can barely imagine." Day smiled. From maintenance technician to guardian of 2 species. Quite a journey. "She was always special," Suk replied. "She just needed the right moment to show it." As they sat in comfortable silence, the crystal's light formed patterns on the walls, almost like writing. The patterns had been growing more complex over the months, as if Joe was learning to communicate in a new way. The new arrivals asked about her, Daz said. "I told them her story." "Good," Suk said. "Stories are important. They inspire others to find their own courage." Outside the chamber, in corridors and rooms throughout the colony, humans and Vreen worked together. Children of both species played in new parks, Ships from both worlds came and went from the expanded spaceport, and deep below, in networks of crystal and light, Ja watched over them all, no longer just a girl from the colony, but a legend who had changed the course of two civilizations forever. In the crystal's glow, a pattern formed that looked almost like a smile.